Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam, ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, inshallah. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Aisha Murray. I'm also known as the Scottish Revert teacher. I'm a Revert Muslim based in Scotland whose goal is to spread the word of Islam to my country and to anyone else it's relevant to. So today we're going to be reacting to the Bitter Truth Show. Now, I think that's what it's called. I forgot to double check before I started recording, but inshallah, we'll see it in a minute. It's hosted by Ali Dawa. So the title says, Do Men Want Career Wives? Okay, so do men want career wives? Let's just watch it and then I'll just sort of put my 2 cents in. Okay, bismillah.
But what would you suggest to somebody for the 11 years that I've been Muslim, trying to get married, not being able to get married, been actively pursuing it? What would you have suggested a woman like that does? Stuff?
No, like
I think a secure man can handle that.
Oh, she has a career. She can't be feminine.
Exactly.
I don't think people saying that. Yeah, I don't think men necessarily think like that, but nor are we having a discussion that entails sisters can't have a career.
It's coming across that way from listening to you guys.
Yeah, so just clarifying it.
Personally, in my circle of friends, and this is amongst practicing sisters, not so practicing sisters, anybody who is married, has a good husband, he earns not even loads of money, but just enough to pay for everything they need. She doesn't want to work. She's happy, bro. She is happy.
Girls, we're not talking about what you're talking about. We're talking about this set of girls. Yes, these boss babes, these feminists.
Where do these boss babes come from? Where do you think they come from, these boss babes?
Would I hoover the house? Yes. Wash the dishes? Yes. I don't know, name whatever you want.
Okay, so
no, one second, let me finish, yeah? I will do that if I want to.
Okay, that was quite an intro. I'm not going to lie, I don't want to start off with the negatives, I really don't. But first of all, Ali Dawa has a huge following. I think he's, over 500,000. I don't know exactly the numbers. So he has a huge influence, right? I think the first thing that I notice is that this is like a trend that we see on YouTube right now in the non-Muslim sphere, where you have, it's very much, it comes across a very London thing, but I don't think it's solely a London thing, where usually red pillars get a mix of men and women in, and they discuss the relationship between the genders in the non-Muslim sphere. And honestly, the topics that they cover are usually inappropriate, and because of that, inappropriate speech and behaviour follows. It's really distasteful, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying Ali Dawa and the group are going to do the same. I'll see as I go through it. For me, I just feel like these sort of setups are things that we should avoid. For us, we live in a non-Muslim country. Sometimes we have little to no choice in our interaction with the opposite gender, There is exceptions and flexibilities and necessities and things like that. And the rulings regarding that are with the people of knowledge. However, I don't really think it's something that we should be, I'm going to say the word normalising. I don't know if I'm using the appropriate language, so forgive me, but, it seems too informal, too comfortable, and it's something that we should never sort of allow ourselves to get comfortable with, I guess. And listen, I say this for, a place of imperfections. I do think this is probably a situation where we all fall short now and then, because we do live in a world where things that are not really good for us are normalised. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to sort of, try and strive and control the places that we are in control of, But let's continue and let's see what happens, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters and dear friends. Welcome to the Bitter Truth Show, where we're talking about truths. But what kind of truths?
Bitter truths, bro.
The bitter ones that you don't like, but it's the truth. Brothers and sisters, if you want to be on the panel, be it sisters or brothers. And by the way, we are open to anybody's panel, even if you're non-Muslim, even if you're wearing a hijab or not, as long as, everyone's covered decently, both for men and women, of course. So you can apply, because some people are like, do I have to look like this or whatever?
Oh, Ali, why? And I really genuinely say this respectfully, but I feel like, right, okay, everybody has a choice to dress how they want and present themselves how they want, their business. But I think when you are a host or the creator of a show, especially if you're a man and you're a leader, you should have this sort of gira and sort of protection over the people, even the people you're inviting. I'm not going to assume, but I would hope that if he were to get sisters on, whether they're Muslim or not, whether they're covered or not, that he wouldn't be looking to post their aura online. Once you put something out, it's really hard to come back for that, especially Muslim women. When we are learning and developing, usually our hijab changes and becomes stronger if it's somewhere that we're lacking, right? There should be steps towards making sure that these sisters are protected. I mean, I don't want to make assumptions. He might cover the sisters like on the edit. Anyway, let's continue.
You can apply for the panel. If you have questions, Nasir-based, I'm going through this in my marriage, or I'm a single brother or a sister looking to get married, or whatever it may be, you can send those questions in. We can give you some Nasir, inshallah, from the sisters and the brothers. And yes, so let's get straight into the topic. The topic today is, to the brothers, would you want a career wife?
Obviously I'm not married, so I don't know what marriage is like or anything, but I don't think I'd want one because of how society is nowadays with like movies and basically the media. I know that whenever we have a kid, she's not going to have to, but I think that for the sake of the kids, it'll be better if she's part-time or not working, because then she can fully focus on bringing up the kid in an Islamic and correct way, and that would protect the child's future, and then hence obviously our future. And that's
I do think that for a sister, her priority should be her home and her kids. I don't think sisters always have a choice. Not all sisters are married. There are divorcees, there are widows, and sometimes there are even couples where the husband is not able to work through ill health. So with everything in Islam, there are flexibilities, but even within those flexibilities, there is procedures and things to take into consideration. Like, we're always trying to follow and find a route that keeps the family good and healthy and prospering, and in accordance with, you know, the Sharia. Like, it is permissible for a woman to work in Islam, but it's about priorities as well, right? Like, your career definitely shouldn't come before your family. It shouldn't come before your deen. It's not the top of the priority list, and it shouldn't be for even the men, to be honest with you. You know, we're told in Islam that we are travellers in this world. So we should have a healthy attachment or detachment, let's say. But I think that was a straight to the point answer. Let's continue.
I'm 17.
MashaAllah, you're very mature for your age, mashallah. You're thinking ahead. MashaAllah, brothers like you deserve 2 wives.
Inshallah.
Zishan.
Let Faisal go for it. Because in the sheet after
No, you smile to Jannah, so come on, bro.
So Zishan, would you want a career wife?
You gotta
define. What do you mean career
phrase
wife?
this?
Very simple, brother. I'll make it very simple for you guys. A wife that has a career.
Career oriented.
No, orientation is not a problem, bro. You can be career oriented, no problem. The problem here is that you want to pursue your career, be it doctor, be it, I don't know.
Focus on career.
That's what career oriented means.
Has a career, wants to work.
Do you mean she's not giving up everything else, but she's 100% on, right, I'm focusing completely on my career.
Yeah, when I up here, listen, I am going to work.
That's what
Yeah,
career
so
oriented means.
yeah, I know, but like everything else.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you know, I understand. but everything else in her life is
Secondary.
Is secondary. She won't think about it. So you get a lot of women
Not
who.
secondary.
That's
the woman loves you, kids, but she wants to work.
I think career orientated is the point they're trying to get at. I think that's how everybody sort of understands it.
Personally, I think the issue, and obviously, you know, I'm a little bit younger. I need to build up my opinions and stuff. But when you see a lot of women who get to mid-30s, 40s, they haven't thought about marriage yet.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't even begun looking, and it takes a while. So if that's what you mean by career woman, then my previous answer stays.
Exactly. Let me make it very clear. Me, myself, I would not want a career woman. I wouldn't want a career wife. I wouldn't want a wife who's like, okay, yeah, now you're going to look after the kids. I'm going to have to go because I'm a doctor. I'm not going to let go of this because I studied 5 years to become it.
Why?
Because I want a traditional wife. Yeah? So
Why would a career not give you a traditional wife?
Because, for example, at the end of the day, I want a wife who's going to be a mother, who's going to look after the kids, who's going to be looking at building up, nurturing the next generation, which is my children. And when I come home from work, I would like some food on the table, and many other aspects, to be honest. So when she does that, she's not going to be able to do that. So if I'm doing as a traditional man, if I'm doing my part, I'm not going to be seen out from the other side, because I'm going to have to come home and she's like, oh, did you make food? No, I did not make food. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't. I was.
You know where everything is. Why didn't you just make it?
Sorry? Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to hear that. Yeah. So the thing is here, and this is why a lot of people are making a lot of mistakes here. Sisters, maybe you can add on to this, yeah? Because you guys didn't really answer it. Thank you very much.
That's because the question was flawed.
Let me answer my question.
Answer it. Look, it's very simple, bruv.
I've
orientated woman.
I've got what you've implied. Yeah. After some heavy kind of looking into what you're saying, if a person is career implied, like you're implying, yeah, a career means that there's a ladder. Yeah, and there's a beginning and there's an end. So if you're going up the career ladder, that means you're going to have to make certain choices. You're going to have to adopt certain characteristics and certain traits. And those traits tend to be masculine. Yeah, because the other traits may not necessarily work. You do have to be stoic. You do have to be assertive. You do have to be tolerant. You do need to have a thick skin, stuff that is typically not associated with women. So if that person now is coming into your life, and you, depends what sort of man you are. Are you a man that is typically regarded as a high value man, or are you somebody that's not necessarily a high value man? If they are looking for a high value,
first of all, I just want to say that, I appreciate Brother Sishan. I've shared a few of his stuff. But I think this is what I was kind of scared of, to be honest with you, because, like I said, it's very much like that trend. And even now we're starting to slip into sort of red pill terminology. And these sort of ideologies have no place in our conversation. Like, we are in a generation where we are falling short in our knowledge of our deen. We're falling short about what we know about the best of generations. A high-value man in the non-Muslim sphere is definitely not what we would regard as a high-value man. It is really hard to have a career, because a career means that you will be working a decent amount of time throughout the week. And to do that job justice, as well as to nurture and bring up your kids and do that justice, is really difficult to get that balance. And again, I come back to the concept of being a traveller in this world. Both men and women really, really need to take this world with a pinch of salt. We have a duty in this world, and people have rights over us, and we have rights over other people. And all of that has to be practiced and used and everything else. But at the same time, we shouldn't be so heavily invested that it allows us to lose ourselves and what we are known for, our image, how we are portrayed. I don't know if that really makes sense, but, that's the best I can communicate it. Let's continue.
A woman who is in a certain position in her career, she typically wants them equal to her, if not higher. Yep. So now if she wants a higher level man, that higher level man, does he want to come home to somebody that does have masculine traits? And the question for me, or rather the answer from me, would be no. If I'm coming home, I don't want to be having debates with somebody over trivial and small things. I don't want somebody, because a man doesn't want to marry a man. Yes. Well,
again, just to complement the point that I made earlier, the purpose of a Muslim and the roles of the genders are clear. I don't know why there's confusion, to be honest with you. Individually, we should be wanting to know our role in this world as a Muslim, as a woman or a male, as a father, as a mother, as a wife, as a husband, as a kid. We should be invested in that, rather than high-value man, career-orientated woman, and all this jargon and nonsense, honestly. I don't mean to be negative. I feel like it would be better for us to step away from these conversations and just start investing our time in ourselves. Inshallah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. In the sense that a man doesn't want to marry somebody that's also masculine. A female tends not to also want to marry somebody that's also feminine as well. Yeah. Opposites attract on average kind of thing. So bearing that in mind, as a career-orientated woman with the kind of traits that comes with being in a career, I would avoid that.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I'm going to break it down a little just so people don't misunderstand you. Can a sister have a career? Yes, she can. We're not saying that it's a problem for a sister to have a career. Haven't said that yet either. Do I prefer a sister who is more focused on a career as opposed to raising a family and having traditional house roles? I would not want that. Because it's my job to provide, right? Factors out of the picture, just at times that needs to fluctuate. But no, I would not want career-oriented woman.
So I think we need to look at what is causing this to happen.
I've just noticed something. I don't know if anybody else has noticed it, but the first question that Ali asked, he asked all the brothers first. And now all the sisters are getting asked, right? But I'm just wondering if there is a better and more productive way to be able to get answers for the brothers and answers for the sisters, show the concerns from both sides separately, and bringing it together in the edit in a way that best represents Islam, in a way that shows the truth rather than opinions. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Right. And it's interesting because you're talking about like opposites attract, masculine women, feminist men. I actually like when you see these kind of like celebrity couples where the woman is like this powerhouse boss babe, whatever. Yeah. Her husband tends to be quite submissive. And
well, he has no choice but to.
I mean, I don't know whether it's that men have kind of like regressed into this sort of like fetile, sort of like, okay, I'll listen to you kind of like position, right? But that's the only way that I've seen it work, because then there's no clash for power. He submits and understands that his wife is the boss, and he's happy to just, trot along and like spend her money and do whatever. It's kind of this weird flip and reverse that's happened.
It's a disaster.
But we need to look at why is this happening? This whole kind of, especially in the 90s, there was this massive push with like shows like Sex and the City and things like that, right? Where they kind of glamified this life of being 40 and never married and never had kids and just working and like living your best life and traveling and stuff. And actually, I was listening to a class I've been taking called Wife School, which I think everybody should take a wife school before they get married or even after they get married. And she was talking about how the lady who actually wrote the books for Sex and the City, pushed this lifestyle on women for decades, and later went back.
Oh yeah, what's her name? She's a feminist. I know. I was reading.
She's an ex-feminist actually. She's turned back and said she's in her 40s or whatever now, and she hates her life. She's divorced and single, and she's like, I spent my whole life pushing this, and it's not. I wish I chased a career. I'm lonely. I wish I had children now that I'm divorced and alone, and I'm in my like late life. Wow. And this is what's been fed to society, that you can be single and free and travel and hang out with your girls and live this amazing life. But the reality is, women have an expiration date in terms of having a family. Men don't. You guys could be 70 and birth a new family if you wanted to. Don't know why you would, but if you did, you could do that. But as women, we have a limited time frame. I think it's like 28 or 36 years, something like that.
Anywhere from 18 to about 28.
Yeah, so we only have this window, and when it passes, that's it. You're either going to adopt in your 50s by yourself.
A cat, dog, or are you talking about baby?
Well, either, whatever you please. You know, nowadays there's a market for everything.
Yeah, literally, there's cats and dogs.
You could adopt a microwave, and that could be your baby now. You know, who knows? But they're getting to this point where they dreamt of this life, and it doesn't fulfill you in the end. Because as human beings, Allah created us that we are meant to find our other half. We're meant to build our little community inside our home, and this is what brings us peace, and this is what looks after us when we're old. Allah says, like, they looked after you, and you look after them. You know, when they're old, and that's what you need. You need that care and love and companionship in your age. And so they've been brainwashed to think that that's not what you need, and you can attain whatever you want anyway. But it's just not the reality of it.
Okay, interesting.
I totally agree. I would just like to add to it, is we've got to a time and period in life where these ideologies have been pushed for a while. Now we're starting to see the long-term effects of said ideologies. And this is why you see shows like this trending on YouTube now. You can almost see people, men and women, going into turmoil. The lines are blurred. The boundaries are not there. The thing and the blessing that we have as Muslims, the boundaries are clear, the roles are clear, the flexibilities are there for when they're relevant. It is a shame to see the generations, especially Muslims, and to see that they're looking for contentment and peace outside the religion, not realising that the religion has all the answers there. I'm not accusing this panel of doing that, but there is a love amongst some Muslim sisters for feminism, and there is this growing love for this trend and red pill and ideologies like it.
Imani, and then what's this for you?
So I think it's interesting the way that you were talking about the traits that come with somebody who's climbing a career ladder. And I think this is very, very true. However, I would probably just ask a question. It's not like to trip you up on anything. It's just a question to delve into this more. So what would you suggest for somebody who is not married, has no male to look after them, has to financially provide for herself, has to therefore get a job, has to climb some sort of ladder so that she's not depreciating in terms of her finances because we live in an inflationary world, and then wants to get married? So me, basically, that's me. So exactly. So I've had no choice but to work, but to create my own small business, which I'm very proud of. I'm not a boss babe. I don't claim to be anything like that. Oh, it's Heston Learning Centre. It's a tuition centre for children, and I also teach children and women's Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well. So the thing that I would ask is that, like, I'm really looking forward to getting married. So inshallah, when I do get married, I know that I want to embody the traits that are feminine. I don't want to embody the traits that I've been forced to embody, because it is being forced to embody them. I've had no choice. So I can't wait until I don't have to do that anymore. And I can say that I really cannot wait. But
I've understood your point. I've understood your point.
Yeah, but what would you suggest to somebody? For the 11 years that I've been Muslim, trying to get married, not being able to get married, been actively pursuing it, what would you have suggested a woman like that does? Starve?
No, I wouldn't say, yeah. So it depends. If a woman has been in a career in which she's a secretary, she's around other men, she's in a power-driven corporation in which she's trying to go up, it's obvious to a typical person what that entails. However, if you're a nurse, however, if you're a primary school teacher, I would say, the statistic is like over 80% of the primary profession are of females. So there are certain careers that it's more palatable, it's more digestible for a man that's seeking you as a potential spouse, that they can ascertain from your career choice that this is somebody that most likely has still retained her feminine traits. Okay, however, if you're there kind of wrestling and it's professional and this and that, then a man, he's going to be thinking, whoa, like... I
think a secure man can handle that.
Yeah. I wouldn't say...
Sorry, I just had to say something.
For me, it's not... I was just going to say that, like, I don't think... At least I don't know if brothers do this. I don't know if when brothers are going into marriage, they're like, oh, she has a career, she can't be feminine.
Exactly.
I don't think people... I don't think men necessarily think like that, but nor are we having a discussion that entails sisters can't have a career. We're having a discussion for during marriage.
But it's coming across that way. I'm listening to you guys.
Yeah, so just clarifying.
It's coming across that way.
No, it's good you have, though. It's good you have. And you're more than welcome to do so.
Hold on. Okay, if it's coming across like that, we need to make clarification straight to the camera. We do not mean that. So let's start again. It's very important. Okay. No, they don't. They listen to me. I'm a misogynistic man here. Yeah. Just to clarify, we are not saying, like, for example, my wife had a career. She actually wanted to pursue it, but the thing is, we had kids, and wallahi, she's a housewife, and she's totally happy about it, yeah? So the thing is, though, I'm not saying, I didn't come and say, oh my gosh, you have this career, I'm not going to marry. I never even had that thought process, but I would ask, once we get married, do you want to continue it? We had that discussion. That's very important. So we're not saying career, red flag, not feminine, we're not saying that. You can have a career. Like,
but I think we clarified that there are certain...
Yeah, just always clarify that, not misunderstood, so, because we don't want to make you feel as if, it's like, what we're saying is, though, at the end of the day, we want to come home to a traditional wife. Career wife, that's why I believe the solution to this, when we talked about solutions last year, that's why I believe feminism has made the roles kind of reversed in this context, where when you are at your prime, so the sisters, your prime is 18 to 28, you are at your prime. You are the most beautiful, men want to marry you, and women are born with value. The best thing to do, I would personally say, sisters, is...
These are classic red pill arguments to remind sisters of traditional roles. Where's the ayats? Where's the seerah? I just want to point out that I won't be putting all the video out there. I am going to edit this down to as short a video as possible.
You get married very young, have your kids. By the time you're about 30, 31, these kids have grown up. You and your husband, like you're in your 30s, whatever it may be, then get a career. We do it the opposite way. First, let's get career boss babe. No, and then at the age of 30, oh my gosh, my time's running out.
But life doesn't work like that.
There's a difference here. The difference is there's a difference between career.
There's a lot of back and forth, but I think I'm just a wee bit aware of the advice. I think we advice like this in terms of the do's, the don'ts, the can do's, the shouldn't do's. I think we really need to be cautious here because, again, it's just being aware. These are general statements, but everybody watching is an individual in it. So, I just wish that there was Islamic input here, like references of the Quran and Sunnah. Like, I'm assuming these conversations are to bring us closer to our deen and make us better people individually, whether male or female, in a way that is pleasing to Allah. But when you don't have any sort of Islamic context in the conversation, I've seen none yet. From the terminology that they've used, this is very much a red pill conversation. If the point is to better ourselves and to increase our knowledge and to develop our character, then the Islamic sources has to be a part of that. It can't be just based on opinions.
There's a difference between career and a job. Yeah, career is something that's long term. Job is something that's temporary. Yes. In fact, when people do
take career breaks as well.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm distinguishing between the two. Let's just say somebody's got married, and you know that your wife is going to be home. You're going to be at work. She's going to be by herself. Again, that's why.
But again, you're boxing even men and women's roles, which I think now it's not that box as you're making it. Even when you say traditional men, what is a traditional man? A traditional man also can help to cook and have those skills. A traditional man can actually help his wife if the kids are, troublesome, and they can say, okay, I'm doing the dinner, the dishes, whatever. There's nothing wrong in
can
that.
Or should.
I said can, and they should have the skills to do it. When they go to university, they're not going to have their mummies or even a wife to even look after them. So it's good for them to have those skills.
The thing is again, this is where the Islamic context would help save this conversation. It would be really easy to clear these wee points that are made up just by looking at the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Quran.
I have a question for her. Whose main priority role is that in a relationship, the man or the woman? To rear the children? And
of course, the main priority, what is the situation in the house, is it would be nice for a woman to take on that responsibility.
But naturally,
so.
biologically,
absolutely.
Who is better equipped for that role?
Actually, nowadays, you could argue either.
Okay. I'm really uncomfortable for the sister who's being questioned. Not because the sister Naila or the question itself, but clearly she's getting triggered because she feels she isn't being heard. Now, I'm not saying I agree, but usually these red pills do this. They trigger women. It makes for good views. I guess I'm just failing to see how this is productive. I would say that there's a duty to protect the image of everybody on the panel. Let's continue and see where it goes.
Because I know so many... breastfeed? Well, you asked me about one thing, and that's
she said biologically.
I said biologically.
Okay,
who is more equipped by Allah to take care of the kids? Who has been given that role by Allah?
Absolutely, but there are a lot of, unfortunately, circumstances that I see where the women are not doing that, even if it's biologically in that, but the man is providing. There's a lot of homes that are broken where the women, at the end of the day, they're not able to do that, and the man can take that role.
What do you mean by they're not able to? Give like an example. Like, what do you mean?
If there's mental health issues for the wife, for example, okay? So I know it's exceptional, but it's happening more and more, and the statistics are higher. And I deal with that in a very everyday issue. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, when you say traditional man, yes, it is the way it should be nice in that way. But, we're not living in those sort of circumstances anymore, where at the end of the day, a man has to only work and provide. The women can contribute, and to have a career does not take away her femininity. Even if you're working in those high sort of like profile businesses or careers or whatever, that's maybe masculine energy, and she doesn't have to bring that masculine energy to the house.
Masculine energy.
Masculine energy is having that leadership role, having that argumentative sort of way of speaking.
It's not just energy.
Well, it's called energy. That's what it is, because it differentiates between her being.
Where's that energy coming from?
The energy is coming from the fact that she has to be in a particular persona in order to actually maybe be at work, right?
That was my point. Persona and characteristics change.
It doesn't mean that she can't be both. It doesn't mean if she works in that particular way that she can't also be feminine and also bring a sort of like a different sort of stance when she's
So you're saying she needs to have two contradictory characteristics that she can switch on and off. You're asking too much.
No, but you can. We do that all the time. We do that when we're at home. We are certain characters at home, and when we go to work, we're different characters.
That's where mental health problems come from.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's called split personality
syndrome. No, it's not.
But
it's just cause exactly. If they know how to go home and have respect for their husband, they won't act like that. They won't take on those traits.
What if she's in a position where she loses that respect? Maybe she gets angry or emotional.
It can get hard. I get what you're saying. That when you're trying to enmesh the two so much all the time, it can become mind-boggling. I understand that, but I also agree with the fact that no, actually, if you are for whatever reason as a woman in a, as you say, non-idealistic situation to you, you've fallen into a career, whatever. As long as you have respect for your husband, you still have the ability to go home and not act like boss babe or whatever.
So on the one hand, you have a biological inclination, yeah, and for you to go towards your biological inclination, and of course societal inclination, that's ideal and less cumbersome on you. When you start putting something that's against your biology and against sociology, and you're trying to mesh the two together, sorry,
how is it against it?
Because women are.
We can be more than one sort of trait and characteristic.
Yeah, that's when you get the mental health issues.
No, who says that? Who says that? I'm studying
women say that. Women say
no, if they're saying it, they're not coming from a professional point of view.
These are peer-reviewed journals.
No, even still, I'm doing research on this right now. No, these research that is happening right now, they're very, 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 very limited even in its research, right? When it comes to factors of mental health, it is not what you're just saying that it is. Trust me, okay? Because mental health does not come from...
I would be really interested to know that when they're speaking about the research and statistics and things like this, are they talking in terms of Muslim women and Muslim men and Muslim households and communities, or are they just talking about men and women in general? Are they talking about the Muslim world as a whole or just Muslims in the UK? I don't feel like there's enough clarity, and I feel like ideas are being meshed by completely different communities. The Muslim community are not free from diving into these ideologies, clearly, but I think we have to be careful that we don't just generalise. Let's continue, inshallah.
Biology as well as environmental.
Okay, guys, today it's not about mental health. It is, but today's talk is not about mental health. Let's just make something very clear. Yeah? No, it is. But the thing, okay. Maybe but the topic right now. Let me just bring it back into the topic. Yeah, is about do men want a career-orientated wife? Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So let me make it very clear. Yeah, look, I'm a man. Let me ask you one by one. Yeah, when it comes to this issue, I have a concern where if my wife is the I want to say provider, but if she's working, I've made this very clear before. If my wife was a multi-millionaire, I would tell her you're not paying for the rent, you're not paying for the shopping, you're not paying for the petrol, you're not paying for the council tax, you're not paying for electric, gas, none of it. No money, that's your money. Enjoy it, do whatever you like with it, yeah? But you are not doing that. Because why? Because at the end of the day, we agreed in our other episode that sisters can say stuff that can slice you up into pieces. If she comes on one day and goes, well, guess who contributes? It might be unintentional, it might be, she didn't mean it. But for a man, it's like somebody juked you. And joking means stabbed you, yeah, by the way. So to us, it's like words, like with us, we're physically strong. Women are mentally more stronger than us, I believe, yeah? That's why you guys end up getting over breakups easier than men. Yeah, we suffer and we have like suicide rates and all other kinds of stuff, yeah? Yes. 100%. It's significant. There's no
suicide. I'm talking about the breakups.
No, even the breakups.
We get hurt at the very beginning.
Yes, but you on the long term. Yes, but we suffer. Have you seen that meme where the guys break up and he's like, ooh, and the girl's like, and then it's like 3 months later he's crippled and she's like, ooh, in the beginning, yeah. So you guys are why? Because you can go to your girlfriend and be like, hey, you can start crying. If I go to my friend and cry, give me one uppercut. Yeah. Why are you crying for? Oh, sorry. Yeah. We have to bottle it up. This is as men, we have this. Women, you can express it. Sometimes, subhanAllah, I've been in a situation in my life when I've been difficulty, even crying to Allah. It was like, wow, this is some powerful stuff, man. Crying to your Lord, yeah? It's powerful. Would I ever cry in front of my wife? Very rarely. That's a different topic. But the point we're saying is this. Men in general do not want a wife.
Classic example of what I was just referring to, and I'm sure that he's not doing this intentionally. Ali spoke about breakups and suicide. I'm assuming he's talking about divorce rather than breakup. For the sake of clarity, proper terminology is important. But also, how prominent is suicide within the Muslim community? I doubt that the statistics are anywhere near the same. And again, this is when I come back to that we need to separate the communities here. Again, it comes back to this sort of non-Muslim interpretation of masculinity. Like, what does it mean to be masculine? We as Muslims would say that it is to adopt and develop the characteristics that the Prophet ﷺ had. A man who was an ideal leader, who was fearless and strong, yet empathetic and kind, is to take on your role, the role that's really clearly determined by Allah and the Quran and Sunnah, and to take that on with honour, self-respect, dignity and humility, to know and understand the world around you and to view it through the lens of Islam, to unapologetically refer back to the guidance and to strive your best at all that. If we are going to call anybody a high-value man, it should be under that umbrella. I'm going to end it there. I'm finished. I hope I haven't offended anyone on the panel. That's not my intention. If I've made any mistakes in this video, know that it comes from me, my shortcomings, and my need for knowledge, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for that. But yeah, I think this is the best you're going to get out of me on this video. May Allah increase us in knowledge and good character and wisdom of His deen and make us amongst the people who please Him. Until next time, everybody, I'll see you all very soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.